and how y'all want to do this, and just thank you. So we've got your first slide up. Hit us with it.
All right, so I am Hydi Kalmin. This is my first year in Fulton. I am so pleased to be here. I've been a head counselor at a charter school in DeKalb County, where we actually also started with 9th and 10th grade. So I am extremely excited to be here. I have 2 boys in 3rd and 6th grade that are also in STEM education. So excited about this opportunity to bring STEM for Fulton County, and you guys can hear all about this today. I'll let Scott introduce himself, and then we'll talk a little bit about the school before we go into our STEM activities today.
Hey everybody, I'm Scott Kent, the Curriculum Assistant Principal at Innovation Academy. I have been in Fulton County for about 23 years. I was at Centennial High School for many years as an English teacher, and then moved into computer science, taught that program there, built it up fairly significantly, and then recently moved into administration. I went down to Riverwood International Charter School for a few years as an assistant principal there. And then as soon as this opportunity presented itself, I moved up. I was fortunate enough to be on the committee that was responsible for building the building. I would love to take full credit for it, but really I just sat on the committee. But I was fascinated with the approach that they took, which was to really develop the idea for what we wanted the school to be, and then to build the building around that idea. So that really struck a nerve for me, as I think it does for many people that see the building. And, it was just from that point on, it was a done deal for me. As soon as I had the opportunity to come up, I begged Mr. Duncan for the job, and I think he finally relented. And I'm super excited to be here. So Heidi, do you want to take us away on what IA is?
Excellent. And as you see, we're going to kind of give you a snack of what this school is. We're going to show you just a few photos because we truly feel that the best way to understand IA and to see the amazing building is to be in there. I actually live in downtown Crabapple, so I drove by this from the time it was a shell till completion. So from the outside, it's a traditional brick, but when you go inside, it's completely unlike anything you've ever seen in high school. So the question is, why IA? We have so many amazing high schools in Fulton, and we are blessed that there's so many opportunities for our students. So what innovation does is it gives you something additional. They're like-minded students that are really interested and focused on STEM education, in computer science and engineering, who was always that kid that loved answering every single math problem and would do it. I'm talking about even my own kids do it on the weekends because it was fun. That was build things, and we've heard over and over again on our tours. I think Scott can agree that we hear stories of little kids at age 3 that would just take things apart and build them together. And now they're in a school where they get to do all that. And that is something really exciting. They're going to have a deep and engaged connection to real-world experiences. And then again, there's that daily opportunity to pursue your passion. I do want to say, and we've had a lot of students that come not quite sure what they want to do. And that's okay. We also want to help them develop one. So they don't have to know which pathway. We're going to give all of our students, and Scott will talk a little bit more at the freshman course, but we'll have a way that our students get exploration into all 3 of our pathways, in the computer science, in the engineering, and the healthcare. So they kind of get to see which one may be their passion, and they may pursue more than just one. It's an interdisciplinary environment where classes are laser focused on the application of knowledge. In biology, they may be doing something that leads into English, and always with that STEM focus. And finally, there's real world career development and hands-on learning. We want high school not to be something where students simply get a transcript and a diploma, and then we have to say, what next? We want the experiences they have while at innovation to then lend them to, even if it's not a career in one of these 3 pathways, they're getting hands-on experience at any employer that any college major or any college would love to have them part of it. So Scott, do you want to talk about the pathways for a minute?
Sure. Yeah, we have 3 pathways, and again, just to reiterate, I think it's an important thing, distinction, because we get a lot of questions about if we're a vocational school, if we're an honor school, if we're a STEM school, or whatever, as if those things are mutually exclusive, and they really aren't. We are excited about the philosophy of the school because it really blends those worlds together. So when we ask students to engage in a pathway and to follow that course of study, what we're really doing is asking them to find a way to apply the knowledge that they're getting in their core content classes. the soft skills that are necessary, the problem solving, the critical thinking and creative thinking skills. So we worked very closely with the community, the North Fulton and Georgia communities, to look at what pathways were essential in our job market. And those really came down to healthcare sciences, information technology, and engineering. Now, those are the large pathways, but then within each one of those, you have specific pathways for dissect a little further those pathways of study. I won't go into all of them right now. We've got a lot of them, so we can talk about those when we get you up to see us on the tour.
And that brings us to our facility. So again, kind of you see behind me, this is my background. So when, like we said, outside, very traditional, you walk in, it's all glass, it's all sunlight coming in, it's very natural. What you're looking at is our hangar. We have 244,000 square feet over 3 floors. All the classrooms have glass on the outside, so everything's very visible. We have a floating media center, and that's right in the middle. We have flexible classrooms and spaces. Especially with COVID, one thing that's really great about our school is that we can move all the desks around, we can move the chairs around, we have classrooms that can expand, it can, get smaller. So we have space for students to spread out to have the time. We have learning hubs where teachers, it's not dedicated to anyone, and on the tour, you can see it where they can bring 2 or 3 classrooms in, and there's different places for them to separate out and then come together for larger lessons. We have a leading edge 500-seat auditorium that is adjacent to our school that we're hoping the community also uses, but it's a great way for our English departments, our student-led drama clubs, our guest speakers and TED Talks, everyone to use that space for further learning exploration. We'll have a full fitness center where our students can engage in their own exercise journey and be able to track their progress. We have large engineering labs, and then we also have computer labs for information technology, game design, cybersecurity, and networking. All of this, just so you know, when you take the tour, we're still building all this out. So the structure and everything is fully developed, and we're continuing to furnish everything. The next thing is our schedule. So here's, one thing that Lisa asked us to do is kind of say why we're different and what makes us unique. So one thing with IA is our schedule will make us unique. Our students will go to school full-time Monday through Thursday. We have an 8-period day. Every student will take a virtual class, and the students will have some flexibility of what that will be. We also have a split lunch and a TESLA period. TESLA stands for Tutoring, Enrichment, Strength and Wellness, Leadership and Advisory. So one goal that as a counselor I really want the students to start working on is resiliency and self-advocacy and also independence, where they can make that choice. All right, it's Monday, I'm going to have lunch, but then I really need some help in math. So I'm going to see if my math teacher can tutor me. Or there's a great speaker in the auditorium on stress management. Maybe I'll go in there. But then on a Wednesday, I feel like it's really nice outside. I'm going to go with the walking club, or I'm going to go into the gym. So we're trying to give the students some autonomy in making these choices versus saying you have to be in room 131 on Tuesday and the gym on Thursday. This is going to help students. I know you guys have middle school age kids now, but before you know it, they're going to be in college. And all of a sudden, they're going to go from being told what period to be in what class to making that choice of, I have 3 hours free and I'm only in classes, X number of hours a week. What am I going to do with my time? So our goal is to really give these kids, even with the virtual class period, the independence and the responsibility of deciding what to do with their time. On Flex Fridays, we will have it where one pathway will come to campus. The other 3 other pathways will be doing virtual learning throughout the day, and all classes will have work pushed out to them. We'll have TED Talks, we'll have field trips, there'll be in-depth pathway projects. The goal is to really help the students in the pathway focus in and have more time dedicated to different projects. We will also have club meetings, have academic support if students need that in a smaller setting, as well as community service. Someone mentioned about sports, and we will answer questions at the end. One thing we're looking at on Flex Fridays that may be a great time for some of our intramurals to do tournaments, or for us to actually go down to the elementary and middle schools and do peer mentoring, and maybe even go into the PE classes and have our kids, again, engage in some of those community service projects. Okay.
So I want to take a little bit of time and talk to you guys about the sort of methodology behind our approach to learning at IA. And I'll give you a very quick anecdote from my past teaching. So I taught computer science at Centennial, like I said, and taught some of the most brilliant students at Centennial. They were so incredibly smart. They've gone on to do great things. But I remember asking them one time, I had a leak in my pool. I have the curse of owning a pool at my house, and there was a leak about 5 feet down in my pool. I asked my my pool guy how much it would cost to fix, and there was a special guy that could come out and actually go down in scuba gear and fix the bottom of the pool. And it cost about $250. And I came back to my students, because I always like to sort of approach with practical problems. And I came back and asked these students, which would be cheaper for me to, drop the water in my pool down low enough so that I could replace it myself or fix the leak myself, or pay somebody to come in to fix it for $250. And these were some of the smartest kids in the building. And truthfully, the problem is fairly straightforward. Problem about determining the volume of a three-dimensional space, and they really struggled to do it. And that was a paradigm shift for me, that the way that we're teaching our kids, oftentimes we don't really give them the opportunity to deal in the messy world that we all deal with when we're older. I don't have rubrics. When Mr. Duncan, my boss, gives me assignments to do, he doesn't give me a rubric. He just expects me to do the job and to figure it out. And so I think it's important, as we send our kids into the world, that we give them the skills that they need to be successful, and we don't just push that off. It used to be that the knowledge that we gave them in academic courses was enough. It would set them apart. But now, with the advent of computing devices, knowledge is ubiquitous. It's what we can do with that knowledge that's important. And so that's something that we really want to approach, to have our students understand as they learn at IA. So, we have our STEM curriculum. So we're going to be focused on science and math, but we also are going to be looking at all of the soft skills that come along with that. And that's sort of the blending place with the pathways. So I want to talk very quickly about the methodology that we use, which is a philosophy of, or a process called design thinking, which came out of Stanford University, and really has grown since then. It's been used in many different fields to solve many important worldwide problems. But it really, for our students, gives them a framework to approach problem solving, to apply the critical thinking and creative problem solving that they need. So this is an important step for us, is that we have a clear pathway that our students can use to solve these problems. So I'm gonna walk you through a couple little points with this, just to give you an idea of what the students are doing. And let me ask really quickly, if you guys can, as I look at all of the people on here, if you could raise your hand in the top right corner, you should see a little hand to raise your hand if you are a student. If you have a student on the presentation, that might change the way you approach this a little bit. Don't worry, I'm not going to call you out if we've got any kids on here. I'm just curious. So please raise your hand if you have a student with you.
Okay, 3.
All right, it looks like 3. Back to 2. Somebody said no, Mom, turn that off. Okay, great. So let me just, as we sort of look at this, let's just think through a couple of these problems. And adults, if you want to unmute to answer this, or just write it in the chat, that would be great. Lisa, if you could go ahead and go to that next slide, that'd be great.
Is that someone?
Okay, so let's think about this is what we call a design brief. So when our students come in, they're going to have a class that they'll take at the beginning, and the class is actually going to be the introductory level class for all 3 of our pathways. So intro to digital technology, intro to healthcare, and foundations of engineering. So those pathways are, or those classes will all be taught together. We worked with Georgia Tech's Seismic's program to develop the curriculum for this. And so they're going to be approaching learning about these different pathways by solving real world, very, very important problems that we face in the world around us. So, we've seen a lot of natural disasters later. So does anybody have any ideas about what's the most important thing to provide people in a disaster area in the days following the disaster? Yeah, safety, food, water, shelter. Good. Food, safety, shelter. Good.
Yeah, I have the same question.
Certainly medical care is important. Information, great. Clean water. Yeah, so all of those things are very important in the very near future after a disaster area. The thing that is oftentimes the most difficult and important thing to provide in the immediate days afterwards is clean, potable water. So drinkable water is something that we really struggle with. We can go a significant amount of time without food. But especially if your body is distressed or you're unwell, that's a really important component. So what we have worked on, Lisa, you can go ahead and click again if you could. What we are working on is providing drinkable water. So one more click, and the question that we are asking, so when the students come in, one of the things that they'll address early on is how can we leverage engineering and technology to help provide drinkable water in disasters? Oh goodness, as an English teacher, that's going to kill me. I see a grammatical error. I really apologize. But so how do we provide that water? Now, what happens in this kind of environment with the students is that it really can be solved in multiple different ways. And we have what we call just-in-time instruction, which is the ability for students to gain the information that they need by learning it when they need it, when it's important for them to do. So if you guys could, just real quickly in the chat, let us know, what do you think is some possible ways that we could solve that problem? What technologies could we leverage? What engineering could we have that would help us get drinkable water to those locations? These are great. Straws that filter dirty water, nanotech filtering technology to clean the water on site, absolutely. So I want you to think, as we start thinking about these, please keep adding in the chat if you have thoughts on this. And you go through, if you click through, Lisa, if you'll go to the next slide, we'll go over some of these. But so when we really think about this, these are really important. Like to solve this problem, you have to understand biology. You have to be able to really get down into, how these diseases are transmitted. What can be, purified by boiling the water, which is great, and boiling the water can do a lot. But you might have heavy metals in that the boiling water doesn't get rid of. So, reverse osmosis. There are a lot of opportunities for students, but in order for them to solve these problems, they have to understand biology. They also, at least the next slide, have to be able to understand engineering. So what does it look like? So if we have a nanotech filtering technology or straws that filter dirty water. So that might seem like a simple project, but what is inside the straw? How do you clean it or have it so that it is effective enough for a long enough duration to be useful for the people at the site? So there are a lot of questions with that. The technology that goes along with bleach and chlorine. I think that's Andy. I appreciate that because that is, these are all great ways of solving this problem. But what we end up starting to deal with as we go through these, and you can go through the next two slides too, we've got the healthcare side of this. There's a human aspect of this that is important. Providing people with the technology is great. But there are a lot of examples of providing people in developing nations technology to solve a lot of their problems. But if we don't understand the context of the world that they live in, we can't always solve it. There will be people that won't use solutions because we're not being culturally sensitive to them as we seek to help them solve these problems. In technology too, there's a lot of great opportunities for technology to play a role in this, and in testing water, in examining the layout of the land and where you can find clean water in the area. So there's a lot of opportunities for those. But what really is important to keep in mind is when we're asking our students to solve these problems, we are not giving them an equation on Monday, and that equation solves the problem that they see on Wednesday. The world is much more complicated than that. And when we look at the way our students learn, they need to be able to solve real world practical problems. And this gives them the ability to do it. And what I can tell you from approaching this in my own class and seeing it done successfully is that students get incredibly excited. They start to see the connection between the thing that they are learning and the thing that they are doing. And that connection is it creates a positive feedback loop where students will continue to grow and get better and better because they see the reason that they are learning the things they are learning. All right, so I'll show you one more. I want to get to y'all's questions, and I don't want to talk too much, but I do have another question for you here. And this is another approach that we're taking. So we're also working with Georgia Tech's capstone mechanical engineering capstone teams to develop some projects for our students as well. Their junior year, the students will all have a pinnacle project, what we're calling a pinnacle project, which really is the culmination of all that they have learned in both their academic classes and in their pathways. So they will be given the task of finding a problem and working through to solve that problem. It's a really compelling one. So this is an example. One of the Georgia Tech teams built a project for us that really exemplifies what we're hoping that our students will do. So if you can, again, in the chat, talk a little bit about how can we leverage modern technology to help first responders in urban environments. So when we think about, so imagine the scene with the traffic there on the screen, right? You have an accident or a mass casualty event, and you have congestion and blockages, so it's hard for first responders to get to the actual locations that they need to be to help deal with the victims on site. Let's say we have somebody that is bleeding on site, and we need to get the critical care to them. How would we be able to do that? How could we leverage modern technology to help provide them with better opportunities to get the need that they have to these victims? Any thoughts in chat?
Come on, Titans, don't be shy. Put some thoughts in that chat. I know you have ideas.
If anyone follows us on Instagram, you may.
Oh yeah, some people might already know. That's great. That's great. Who just said that? That Brian and Francis. Great contribution. I love it. Helicopter. Yep, and we see that, right? We see that being used a lot. Sometimes in urban areas, though, helicopters are difficult because there's not enough rooms. There we go. So somebody has that. Who is the last one that said drone? All right, that's great. That's a great example. So Lisa, if you can go to the next slide. So we actually worked with the Georgia Tech capstone teams, and what they're doing, and this is a great example to try to encapsulate what it is that we value and how we're looking to solve these problems. So these students helped us develop this project. And what this is really a convergence of all the three fields that we have, all of our pathways coming together, which really to us is a very important thing, right? So it's very rare that engineers design for engineers. It's very rare that computer programmers program for computer programmers. We all program for customers or clients or users. And so this is an example of that. And when we see these things coming together. So this project is designed to allow our students to work in the world of constraints that we face as adults. So it's one thing, and it would actually be a great project for a healthcare teacher to, ask their students to say, what can we do? Like what would we need to provide to an accident scene for a patient that is bleeding out or having a heart attack or hypothermic or any number of injuries. And the students would work through that and they would figure out, okay, well, so I need plasma, I need a tourniquet, I need gauze, I need wraps, all of the things that it's possible that they would need, and they would put it together. And that's not a bad assignment. I think it would actually be really effective for those kids. But a kid puts all of that together, gets everything that they need, and hands it to a healthcare teacher. And that healthcare teacher looks at it and goes, absolutely, you have everything that you need in here, 100. And the student gets a deservedly good grade. But when that same student turns around and hands a 10-pound bag of all the supplies that they need to an engineer that designed this drone, and that engineer says, hey, that's great, but the drone that I developed can only carry 2 pounds, and you just handed me 10. So now let's think through with this, right? What do we need to change? What is really essential? And so once you start dealing and students start dealing with the world of constraints, they start to figure out, like, this is a difficult task, and it's hard to solve simply. I need to really understand. And so while it might be great to have plasma, it might be too heavy. And so you just need to have a simple tourniquet. Lisa, go ahead to the next slide. And so this is actually one of the prototypes that they built together. So our students will be working on this. And that Arduino there, that little circuit board is an Arduino. And that is a computing device. And one of our pathways in computer science is going to be the Internet of Things. So dealing with small internet connected devices. So our computer programming kids will be working on programming this for object avoidance, GPS tracking. The engineers will be working on the delivery system. So this actually has the orange component is a 3D printed attachment for this drone so that they can provide this. And these kinds of learning opportunities, this problem-based learning, gives our students some amazing opportunities that they don't always have other places, which is this is built around the idea of a student going as far as they can with this. So if a student is quite capable and excelling at engineering, they might want to redesign the drone's frame or the drone's rotors. If a student is early on and trying to, in the process of the learning cycle, and they need to use the drone's existing components, that's fine. That's fine too. So our computer programming kids can develop a flight control system from scratch, or they can use some off-the-shelf libraries that they can use to get the job done. So there are a lot of opportunities for this that we think are really, really important for our students, and we're really excited about them getting the opportunity to learn like this, because we feel like once they see what the information they have or the information that they're learning and how it is applied to the world around them, it gives them ownership of their own education, which is the most important thing we can do for our students. All right, Lisa, you want to hit the next slide?
Okay, so I'll go over. I also want to add one thing to what Mr. Kent just said. When, again, your kids are in middle school, but as it gets to be high school, one thing that colleges and employers really look for is students that stand out. And one thing I've trying to tell all my students is to challenge them to see what's going to set you apart. And our students are going to be known, and this is what Mr. Duncan will say a lot in the tours, by what they produce and the projects that they make. So they'll have the grades, they'll have the scores, but really what they're producing and their own spin on things is what's going to set them apart, and it's going to make them successful in life. So we're just excited about what we're going to see come out of our kids. So for the enrollment process, we are in enrollment right now. December 15th is the close of our applications. We will offer rigorous curriculum experience. We do not have any academic requirements for admissions. We know that there's some kids that are just not great test takers. We know there's some kids that can build things with their hands, and we don't want to use a GPA or some very simple qualifier to, make one student over another. So we're really looking for students that are excited and want to be engaged, that are innovative, that are creative, that, aren't afraid of taking risks and, are excited about being a part of something new. We are open to rising 9th and 10th graders this year. After this year, it will be just rising 9th graders, but we wanted to give the students a chance since we are a little delayed in opening. We're looking for students that are looking for something different, not better than your feeder school. Again, the applications close on the 15th at 11:59 p.m. Applications will be on our website. Fulton County will provide transportation from the student's home high school in the morning and then returning it at the end of the day. And finally, as we've said, we have self-guided tours on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Innovation. We have them tomorrow, I believe, from 2 until 6, Thursday starting at 3, and next Tuesday as well. All the signups will be on the website in addition to the application.
And I will just add on there, just because there's been some confusion. We've had some people on the tours ask us, you know, well, why can my student only go their 9th and 10th grade year? What do they have to do their 11th grade year? We will be graduating. Our 10th graders will be the first graduating class. So we will add a grade every year. So a 10th grader will be able to roll to an 11th and 12th grade student at IA as well.
And they don't have to reapply. Once they're in, they're in. It's just after next year, the point of entry will be 9th graders. So I guess is that maybe, so on our website, that is our website. The first one, I'm sorry, the second one was our sister school in South Fulton, GIA, but on our innovation webpage, it shows information on the building tours as well as the application. We also have videos. We have some 360 degree tours that we put up. We have information on our curriculum and our pathways. So there's a lot of information on the website. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, we have handles on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, where we post things, and we've also give updates on our building progress as well.
And Elkins Point students, you can also go to our website and click on the Innovation Academy applications under headlines, and you can sign up for a tour there. The tours that are existing are also linked in Titan Talk. So, and I believe it's on the Facebook page as well. So lots of opportunities. I encourage you to all go take a tour of this cool school.
Just a heads up, like we said, our building is 244,000 square feet. It typically takes about 90 minutes for a tour. We are happy to modify it if you need it shorter. We do have an elevator if you have mobility issues. And, you know, afterwards, we have people throughout the tour self-guided in different stations. We have 13 staff members that are in key parts all over that will help answer questions, show you to the next part so we can distance everyone, and then answer any questions you may have. We'll also be able to answer some questions tonight. If you go to the last slide. Yeah, that's yours. And then there's, I think, the very last one.
Okay, so the very last is your sign up for tours, Heidi, I think.
Okay.
All right, so Elkins Point parents, you know that we're a Title I school and we require evaluation. So if you have your cell phones out, please scan this QR code. Those of you who are on Facebook with me will know that I will post the link there, the tiny
Uh-oh, I'm afraid we might have lost Lisa.
Are you back? I see her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one I was looking for. On that link we have, if you all want to take a screenshot or copy it, if you have any questions that you want to type in that you don't want to address to us as a group, if you put that in, that goes directly to us and we can look it through. We also have common questions in our FAQs. We have our email address, but then we're also happy to answer any questions. Scott and I are happy to answer any questions right now.
And let me just go ahead and just tackle Andy